What if I told you there was once a car so advanced, so beautifully engineered, that it could have changed the entire automotive industry forever? A vehicle that featured innovations we didn't see again for decades. And yet, almost nobody remembers it today. This isn't about a Ferrari that got lost in a barn, or some exotic supercar that only the ultra-wealthy could afford. This is about a car that was built for everyday people. A car that should have been a household name, but instead vanished into the shadows of history. Today, we're uncovering the story of the Tucker 48, the car the world completely forgot. The visionary behind the machine. Before we dive into the car itself, you need to understand the man who created it. Preston Tucker wasn't your typical automotive executive. He was a dreamer, an innovator, and some would say, a man ahead of his time. Born in 1903, Tucker spent his early years working in the automotive industry, but he was never satisfied with the status quo. While other manufacturers were content with incremental improvements, Tucker saw possibilities that others couldn't even imagine. He had worked with Harry Miller on revolutionary race cars, and he understood that cars could be so much more than what Detroit was offering. By the end of World War II, Tucker had a vision. American soldiers were coming home, and they would need cars. But Tucker didn't want to give them the same old models that had been around before the war. He wanted to give them something extraordinary, something that would represent the innovation and progress that America had achieved. In 1946, Tucker announced his plan to build what he called the car of tomorrow today. The automotive world was skeptical, but Tucker was undeterred. He had secured a massive factory in Chicago, the former Dodge plant, and he was ready to revolutionize the industry. The unveiling that stopped America. June 19, 1947. That's the date that should be remembered as one of the most significant moments in automotive history. On that day, Preston Tucker unveiled his creation to the world, and what people saw left them absolutely stunned. The Tucker 48, originally called the Tucker Torpedo, was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Picture this. While other cars of the era looked like boxy, upright machines, the Tucker was sleek, aerodynamic, and futuristic. It looked like it had been designed 10 years in the future and somehow transported back to 1947. The styling alone was revolutionary. The car sat low to the ground with smooth, flowing lines that sliced through the air. But it wasn't just about looks. Every curve, every angle served a purpose. Tucker had worked with renowned designer Alex Tremulous to create a vehicle that was both beautiful and functional. And then there was the most distinctive feature, something that made people stop and stare. The center-mounted headlight. The Tucker 48 had 3 headlights instead of the traditional 2. The center headlight was directional, connected to the steering mechanism, so it would turn with the wheels, illuminating the road ahead as you went around corners. Think about that for a moment. In 1947, Tucker had created a feature that mainstream manufacturers wouldn't adopt until the 2000s with adaptive headlight technology. That's over 50 years ahead of its time. But the public unveiling was just the beginning. The real innovations were hiding beneath that stunning exterior. Engineering marvels hidden in plain sight. When you opened the door of a Tucker 48, you weren't just getting into a car. You were stepping into the future of automotive safety and engineering. Let's start with safety, because this is where Tucker's genius truly shined. Remember, this was 1947. Seatbelts weren't standard. Crumple zones didn't exist. Cars were essentially metal boxes with minimal regard for what happened to passengers during a collision. Tucker looked at this situation and decided it was unacceptable. The Tucker 48 featured a padded dashboard, something virtually unheard of at the time. While other manufacturers were installing hard metal dashboards that could seriously injure passengers in a crash, Tucker wrapped his in padding to protect occupants. But he didn't stop there. Tucker installed a pop-out windshield designed to eject during a collision, preventing passengers from being thrown through the glass. He created a reinforced safety cage around the passenger compartment. He even designed a special area under the dashboard where passengers could dive in case of an imminent collision, protecting them from impact. These weren't gimmicks or marketing ploys, and he implemented features that the automotive industry wouldn't standardize for another 2 or 3 decades. Now let's talk about what was under the hood, because this is where things get really interesting. Tucker didn't use a conventional engine mounted in the front of the car. Instead, he placed a rear-mounted, horizontally opposed 6-cylinder engine in the back. This engine was originally designed for helicopters, which tells you something about its engineering pedigree. It was a 335 cubic inch power plant that produced 166 horsepower. Now, that might not sound impressive by today's standards, but in 1947, that was serious power, especially considering the engine's efficiency and the car's lightweight construction. The rear engine placement wasn't just different for the sake of being different. It provided better weight distribution, improved traction, and freed up interior space. The Tucker 48 could comfortably seat 6 adults with genuine legroom, something most cars of that era couldn't claim. The transmission was equally innovative. Tucker used a pre-selector transmission called the Tucker-Matic, which allowed drivers to select their gear before actually engaging it. This made for incredibly smooth shifting and was remarkably advanced for its time. And then there was the suspension. Tucker implemented a fully independent suspension system with rubber cushions instead of traditional springs. This gave the car a ride quality that was exceptionally smooth and comfortable, far superior to the jarring, bouncy rides that characterized most vehicles of the 1940s. The fuel system featured a separate fuel tank for starting, using a different fuel mixture optimized for cold starts. The car had disc brakes, another feature that was decades ahead of its time. It even had a built-in hydraulic jack system, allowing owners to lift the car for maintenance without needing external jacks. Performance that shocked the establishment. All these innovations would mean nothing if the car couldn't actually perform, right? Well, the Tucker 48 didn't just perform, it absolutely excelled in ways that embarrassed the established manufacturers. In testing, the Tucker 48 proved capable of reaching speeds over 120 miles per hour. Let that sink in for a moment. This was a family sedan that could outrun virtually every production car on the market in 1947. It wasn't a stripped-down race car or a limited production sports car. It was designed to be a practical vehicle for everyday use. And yet, it had performance that rivaled the fastest cars of its era. The acceleration was equally impressive. The lightweight design combined with that powerful helicopter engine meant the Tucker could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 10 seconds. Again, this was phenomenal performance for a late 1940s sedan. Most family cars of that period took 15 to 20 seconds to reach 60 miles per hour. But speed wasn't the only measure of performance. The Tucker handled beautifully thanks to its low center of gravity and advanced suspension. Journalists who tested the car reported that it cornered with confidence and stability that was unmatched by any American car they had driven. The fuel economy was also remarkable. Despite its size and performance, the Tucker 48 could achieve around 20 miles per gallon, which was competitive with much smaller, less powerful vehicles of the time. Independent testing proved all of Tucker's claims. This wasn't vaporware or exaggerated marketing. The Tucker 48 was a legitimate engineering achievement that delivered on its promises. The empire begins to crumble. So, if the Tucker 48 was so incredible, why don't we all remember it today? Why isn't Tucker Motor Company still building cars? This is where the story takes a dark turn. Preston Tucker's success threatened the established automotive order. The big three automakers in Detroit, Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, had a comfortable oligopoly. They controlled the market, dictated trends, and maintained healthy profit margins by making incremental changes year after year. Then along came this upstart with his revolutionary ideas, showing the world that cars could be safer, faster, and more innovative. Tucker was essentially proving that the big three had been holding back progress, content to sell Americans outdated designs while pocketing massive profits. The establishment didn't take kindly to this disruption. What followed was a coordinated effort to destroy Tucker and his company, using legal challenges, regulatory pressure, and media manipulation. The Securities and Exchange Commission launched an investigation into Tucker Corporation, examining the company's stock sales and business practices. While selling stock to finance a new automotive venture was perfectly legal and common, the investigation created an atmosphere of suspicion and doubt. Newspapers, many of which received substantial advertising revenue from the big three automakers, began running negative stories about Tucker. They questioned his financial backing, suggested his car was a fraud, and painted him as a con artist rather than an innovator. The investigation dragged on, draining Tucker's resources and attention. Instead of focusing on production and refinement, Tucker and his team had to spend countless hours dealing with lawyers, investigators, and regulatory challenges. Access to steel, which was still controlled by government allocation in the post-war period, became increasingly difficult for Tucker to obtain. Coincidence? Many historians think not. The established manufacturers seemed to have no trouble securing the materials they needed, but Tucker faced constant shortages and delays. The final product and sudden end. Despite all these obstacles, Tucker refused to give up. His team worked around the clock to build cars and prove to the world that the Tucker 48 was real, functional, and ready for production. By the time Tucker Corporation ceased operations in 1949, they had built 51 complete vehicles. Think about that. Only 51 Tucker 48s ever rolled off the production line. Each one was essentially hand-built, refined, and tested. These 51 cars weren't prototypes or concept vehicles. They were production-ready automobiles that real customers could have purchased and driven. Each one was slightly different as the team continually refined and improved the design with each build. The cars were sold to dealers, investors, and early customers. Some were used for testing and promotion, but production came to an abrupt halt when Tucker was indicted on fraud charges in 1949. The trial was a media spectacle. The prosecution argued that Tucker had misled investors and that his car was essentially a scam. They suggested he had no intention of actually producing vehicles and was simply running a stock scheme. The defense countered by pointing to the actual cars Tucker had built, the genuine innovations he had implemented, and the testimony of engineers and customers who had experienced the Tucker 48 firsthand. After a grueling trial, Preston Tucker was acquitted of all charges. The jury found that he had genuinely attempted to build a revolutionary car and had not defrauded investors. But the victory was hollow. The legal battle had bankrupted Tucker Corporation. The damage to Tucker's reputation, despite his acquittal, made it impossible to secure new financing. The dream was over. Preston Tucker had been proven innocent in court, but he had lost everything that mattered. His company was gone, his factory was shuttered, and his revolutionary car would never reach mass production. The legacy that almost wasn't. Preston Tucker died in 1956, just 7 years after his company collapsed. He was only 53 years old. Some say he died of a broken heart, watching from the sidelines as the automotive industry continued without the innovations he had championed. In the years following Tucker Corporation's demise, the big three automakers slowly began implementing many of the features Tucker had pioneered. Padded dashboards became standard, disc brakes were adopted, independent suspension systems became the norm. Safety features gradually improved. But here's the thing, these innovations came decades later than they could have. If Tucker had succeeded, if his company had survived and thrived, how many lives could have been saved by earlier adoption of safety features? How much more advanced would automotive technology be today? The Tucker 48s that survived became sought-after collector's items. Today, when one comes up for auction, it can sell for millions of dollars. These cars are treasured not just for their rarity, but for what they represent, a glimpse of what could have been. Several Tucker 48s reside in museums, including the Smithsonian. Each one tells the story of innovation crushed by establishment forces, of a man who dared to challenge the status quo and paid the ultimate price. Interestingly, many of the 51 Tuckers built are still running today. Owners take them to car shows, drive them occasionally, and maintain them with care. The fact that these 75-year-old vehicles still operate reliably is a testament to the quality of Tucker's engineering. What the Tucker 48 teaches us today. The story of the Tucker 48 isn't just about a forgotten car. It's about innovation, courage, and the resistance that often meets those who try to change established systems. Preston Tucker showed us that one person with vision and determination can challenge entire industries. He proved that the way things have always been done isn't necessarily the way they should be done. He demonstrated that putting customer safety and satisfaction first isn't just good ethics, it's good business. But his story also serves as a cautionary tale. Innovation without sufficient capital, political support, and market power can be crushed by those with vested interests in the status quo. Tucker had the technology, the vision, and the vehicle. What he didn't have was the institutional support and resources to weather the coordinated assault against him. Modern automotive innovators, from Tesla to Rivian and beyond, face similar challenges. Established manufacturers resist change. Regulatory systems favor incumbents. Access to resources and distribution networks is tightly controlled. The battles Preston Tucker fought in the 1940s are still being fought today, just with different players and different technologies. The Tucker 48 also reminds us to look beyond marketing and brand names. The best product doesn't always win. The most innovative solution doesn't always succeed. Success in the marketplace requires not just excellence in engineering, but also excellence in business, politics, and public relations. The alternate timeline we never got. Imagine what the automotive world would look like today if Tucker had succeeded. Imagine if Tucker Motor Company had survived, had continued innovating, had pushed the entire industry to prioritize safety and performance decades earlier. Would we have seen widespread adoption of advanced safety features in the 1950s instead of the 1980s? Would American automakers have maintained their technological edge instead of being challenged by Japanese and European manufacturers in the 1970s and 80s? Would a competitive, innovation-focused American automotive industry have prevented the decline of Detroit? Would there be more diversity in automotive design and engineering today if Tucker had proven that independent manufacturers could successfully challenge the Big Three? These are questions we'll never have answers to, but they're worth pondering. The Tucker 48 represents a road not taken, a future that almost was but never came to be. What we do know is that the automotive industry, as it developed, often prioritized profits and incremental changes over revolutionary innovation. Tucker wanted to disrupt that model, and the industry made sure he couldn't. The Tucker 48 remains one of the most fascinating what-ifs in automotive history. Only 51 were ever built, but those 51 cars proved that one man's vision could challenge an entire industry. Preston Tucker showed us what was possible in 1947 with features the industry wouldn't adopt for decades. He dared to prioritize safety and innovation over profits, and for that, he paid the ultimate price. The Tucker 48 wasn't just a car. It was a promise of what the future could be. And even though that future never arrived, the spirit of innovation Tucker embodied lives on in every person who dares to challenge the impossible. If this story fascinated you, hit that like button and subscribe for more forgotten automotive history. Drop a comment. Do you think Tucker would have succeeded if he were launching today? Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember that the most important innovations are often the ones that threaten to change everything.